Folks, everybody is getting exposed for their connections to Jeffrey Epstein, and there's been a lot of things that are needed looking into that maybe were ignored for quite some time, but are now beginning to get on everybody's radar. And I think that there are a lot of connections with Epstein that I think are a little bit dark, a little bit nefarious, a whole bunch of different things that just need digging up, okay? And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Zoro Ranch and basically new prosecutors that are now finally launching a search of this ranch. There's been rumors that bodies might have been buried there. There was even a rumor that Jeffrey Epstein might have been a New Mexico serial killer with, over 11 bodies of women that were actually discovered buried in the desert of New Mexico. Some people believe it might have something to do with this baby farm that Jeffrey Epstein was apparently trying to launch at Zoro Ranch. And so we're finally hearing some updates that essentially they might be investigating this. Now, before I dive into that, I just want to let you guys know, okay, I did drop a video about Erica Kirk on my other channel, my fourth channel, Influencers Exposed. It's got some very interesting details in there and some interesting backstory about a rumor that she actually might have some connections to Jeffrey Epstein and his trafficking empire. So I would go and suggest that you check that out if you want to hear kind of some of the more unusual connections that Jeffrey Epstein has made over the years. But in this video, I want to sort of dig more specifically into the rumors that this investigation at Zoro Ranch is actually going ahead. Now, we discussed last month how New Mexico officials were officially approving a full investigation into Epstein's Zoro Ranch. As you can see here, the New Mexico Land Commissioner was calling for an investigation into the claims that there were things going on at Zoro Ranch and basically, allegations that bodies might have actually been buried there.
Epstein files, there are growing calls from New Mexico leaders to investigate disturbing claims made about Epstein's New Mexico ranch.
Those claims include the possibility that 2 women were buried on the ranch. News 13's Annalisa Pardo is here to explain.
Dean and Jess, the New Mexico Public Land Commissioner wants an investigation into claims about Epstein's Zoro Ranch, including the claim that 2 women are buried there. But the State Department of Justice says it needs more information to go off of. Shrouded in mystery, no one really knows all that may have happened at convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's Zoro Ranch in Stanley, New Mexico. But the release of files about the Epstein case reveals disturbing claims.
So there's a lot of unanswered questions about Zoro Ranch in New Mexico, what went down there, why it was not fully investigated, why people were not held accountable. And frankly, as a New Mexican, to anyone who was hurt there, my heart goes out to you.
So there's basically rumors that bodies have been buried there, right? And this email had gone out, said, Edward, this is sensitive, so it'll be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that's been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro. Material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside of the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on the orders of Jeffrey and Madame Ghislaine? Both died by strangulation during rough fetish things going down in bed. Now, these disturbing allegations that bodies were buried at the Zoro Ranch, they've been going around everywhere. This is sort of a expanded version of that message. Now, some people think this could be a scam because it actually does say arrange for a whole Bitcoin to be sent to my wallet. And basically, I'll send you the information. And there's a bunch of dirty videos there that are allegedly linked. Okay. And people saying that this is a massive cover-up, says they needed time to get rid of the bodies first. They gave them a 2 or 3 year head start. Says, hoping you could catch me up. What's the Zorro? It's the ranch. They're saying it's probably more than 2. They're saying Trump ordered to stand down on the investigation into the ranch property. I don't know if that's true, but basically it says she said on record Epstein offered her money to do this, birth babies for black market use. I did actually read this victim journal elsewhere, and basically, yeah, it's bizarre. Okay, it is bizarre. And I personally do think that there's bodies buried there. Now, I would basically cover, the alleged serial killer narrative where Epstein might have even had a connection to these West Mesa murders, where over a dozen women were actually found buried in the desert. This basically is the West Mesa homicide investigation, and it basically explains that at this point, 11 victims that were all identified, 10 of the victims all have a common link. They have ties to drugs and prostitution. The 11th victim has no known involvement in these things, but they basically used dental records, sketches to try and work out who was who, and they identified 11 women. And here they are. Jamie Barela basically was just basically with her cousin, who was also a victim, left a gathering near a park, were never seen again, killed by an unknown person and buried in a West Mesa location. Monica Candelaria, unknown person, killed the 22-year-old and buried her in the plot. Victoria Chavez, 26 years old, when she was killed and found in the grave in West Mesa. Virginia Cloven, basically they used DNA to identify the 24-year-old as a victim of the 118th Street serial killer, reported missing in 2004, and investigators believe she died between 04 and 05, and she was buried in the same place. Selania Edwards, another victim, they identified using a sketch and dental record. She was identified as an endangered runaway. She'd been associating with working girls in Aurora, Colorado. She might have been staying at the Ranger Motel. She was seen in the company of 3 other women, and she was using a nickname Mimi or Chocolate. 15, just 15 when she was last seen, and that does kind of fit Epstein's profile, and they believe she was killed between 04 and 05 and buried in the same plot. Cinnamon Elks, they believe that she was killed by an unknown person. She was 32 at the time. Doreen Marquez, sometime between 2003 and 2005. They believe she was killed when she was 24. Julie Nito, between 04 and 05, when she was 24. Veronica Romero, again, between 04 and 05. They said she was 28. Evelyn Salazar, she was 27. She was last seen at a family gathering in April 2004. Her and her cousin, who was also a victim who we mentioned, left a gathering and they were never seen again. And she was buried there too. And the last victim, Michelle Valdez, who again, they believe sometimes between 04 and 05, an unknown person killed the 22-year-old and buried her in the same location. Interestingly enough, she was pregnant at the time of her death, and the skeletal remains of her unborn child were found buried with her. So you could argue, depends how you look at it, that that is actually a 12th person and a child that lost their life. Now, apparently the official investigation into the Zoro Ranch has finally begun.
Investigators are searching through the former ranch of Jeffrey Epstein over allegations it may have been used for criminal activity. We're talking about Zoro Ranch. You probably have heard of it. He used to own it. It's just like, maybe half an hour outside Santa Fe. New Mexico's Justice Department says it conducted a search yesterday in cooperation with the ranch's new owners. You'll remember that the state attorney general had reopened an investigation into the ranch last month after it was closed in 2019. Following new allegations from the Epstein files. The AG did not specify which allegations, but some of the documents recently released by the DOJ included an email to a local radio host alleging, I'm quoting here, somewhere in the hills outside the Zoro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G. Now, no evidence has surfaced to confirm these allegations, and attorneys for Ghislaine Maxwell did not immediately return our request for comment. Ryan Riley is covering this one for us. So let's talk it through. There's been a lot of attention on, obviously, Epstein's Island. There's been a lot of attention on the New York townhouse that he owned. And now it feels like the spotlight has shifted to this Zoro Ranch here, right?
Exactly. So there's this Truth Commission that's operating, and it's a multi-million-dollar investigation.
This is through the New Mexico State Legislature.
Correct. Right. Aimed at looking at what exactly went wrong in terms of what could they have missed in state laws that could have been improved or fixed to prevent this from happening.
By the way, that was only fairly recently opened, right? Exactly. After the release of the DOJ documents.
Exactly right. And so, I mean, when you're talking, it's a little bit, I think, as you read in sort of that intro there's questions about what exactly they're zeroing in on. But I think that this is meant to sort of give some answers to the public rather than necessarily, at the moment at least, based on what we know, focused on any individual criminal charges. Of course, you can't charge Epstein because he's dead. But, I think that's basically what they're trying to do is get at some of the truth of this and reveal what gaps there might be in state law.
In other words, if there were any other co-conspirators kind of thing?
Potentially, yeah. Okay. I think going to, it's very sort of early on. But the nice thing is that they have a pretty tight timeline for when they're actually going to get the report out. So this isn't going to be one of those investigations that just goes on forever and we don't really have an answer. There will be some sort of public result in this investigation, and the Democratic AG is very focused, on this as well, and has made these announcements about what they're looking into there.
So they are looking into it. Okay, I would like to see some excavation going on for them to dig up potentially some of these alleged bodies. Now, in addition to that, massive protests have actually been going on at the Zoro Ranch. There's also been protests, right outside the grounds, and people have been demanding justice for the victims, and Virginia Giuffre's brother actually attended too. So this is a video of basically people attending the ranch, and they're pulling up to protest, and things did actually get pretty serious at the protest as time went on. So look at this.
And dance and action, we can get rid of the evil. And today, we, all of us, together with the Epstein survivors and all the survivors of sexual violence, we are all the curanderas, we are all the healers.
And so many other survivors is harder than I ever imagined. Since losing Virginia this past year has been bittersweet, while the void she left behind is ever present. Watching the world truly begin to celebrate her legacy has been awe-inspiring.
So that's her brother giving his thoughts there at the protest right outside the Zoro Ranch. Said, protesting New Mexico style today, Native American chanting, speeches in Spanish, English, and indigenous Puebloan languages, and cleanses with sage. I estimate 1,000 people were there, and between the addresses by Virginia's brother and sisters-in-law and the other speakers, it was very moving. We rebuilt the Zoro Ranch Memorial to survivors that was destroyed by the new owner, Don Huffine's excavators, and I think it's very interesting, right? There's a memorial to the survivors. The new owner destroyed it. My bad. Dropped my little toy. Basically, they destroyed the memorial to survivors with excavators. I wonder what else was destroyed with excavators. That is definitely quite sus, if you ask me. People are basically saying that this makes them happy. You know, they're really glad to see people standing up to them. Thank you to everyone who showed up for the survivors. So appreciative of your time and humanity. America is truly great. This is truly eye-opening. What's this going to be? What's this going to be? We've already seen this, all right. Prison guards discuss the cover-up. We've dug into that very, very deeply. People saying, release the files, release the Trump files. Okay, so much love to the people that came out to show respect for life, compassion, and humanity. It's still alive and well in New Mexico and in America. Thank you to each and every one of you. Now, interestingly enough, okay, New Mexico Democratic Representative Melanie Stansbury, who worked to establish the Truth Commission for Epstein's local crimes in the area, remains highly outspoken about investigating the property and provided an update on this investigation that's going on.
New Mexico with a breaking update in the Epstein investigation, and that is today New Mexico's Department of Justice has begun its on-site investigation of Zoro Ranch. This investigation is crucial as a part of our larger investigation into the crimes that happened by Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and his associates here in New Mexico, as part of New Mexico's investigation through our state Department of Justice and our newly passed bipartisan Truth Commission. Now, one of the things that's important to know is that New Mexico's Zoro Ranch is a place where multiple crimes were reported both to federal authorities as well as state and local authorities. In fact, there are records dating back to the mid-1990s of abuse happening at the ranch, including a report to the FBI in 1996 by a survivor and multiple other reports over the years. And one of the significant and important pieces of this case is to understand why justice was never pursued at the state, local, or federal level. So this investigation is a crucial piece of trying to understand what happened at the ranch, to look for potential crimes that may have occurred on the ranch property, especially because after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in 2019 and other properties were searched, Zoro Ranch was never properly searched, and because it is a crucial piece in getting to the bottom of truth and accountability here in our state, to hold those who are still able to be held accountable to the law, as well as seeking justice and healing for survivors here in our state. So we are so grateful for the work that the New Mexico Department of Justice is doing. We are so grateful for our state legislative leaders like State House Representative Andrea Romero and State House Representative Mariana Anaya, who are leading on our Truth Commission. And we are so grateful to all of the survivors and our community who has shown up, especially over the last several weeks, to show support for survivors. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone, all of the hundreds of New Mexicans who showed up yesterday to show their support for the survivors, to march and to stand in solidarity at Zoro Ranch yesterday. I had the opportunity to meet with survivors afterwards, and I want to share with you that what they shared with us is that they felt like New Mexico was home and had welcomed them. So thank you to all of our New Mexicans out there who are leading the way, who are leading with your hearts, and who are seeking truth, justice, and accountability, because that is what this case is all about. Well,
so shout out to her. Okay, she's a Democratic representative, but okay. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, it's a whole different story, because Republican Representative James Comer would actually tell Fox News that apparently Donald Trump's Department of Justice directly asked New Mexico investigators to shut down a 2019 probe into the ranch. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? James Comer says Trump DOJ asked New Mexico officials to end the Epstein investigation, right? Apparently they said, wrap it up. Don't do it. All right, don't do it. Basically, he claimed that on Fox News that it was being ordered to shut it down. Okay, they said authorities searched a ranch once owned by Epstein in the state. Victims said they were trafficked at the ranch, and it's the second time the property's been investigated. It was being probed in 2019, but federal investigators reportedly took over and shut things down. And then Epstein died of an apparent self-deletion while incarcerated. Comer, who chairs the House Oversight Committee, said on Tuesday, the federal government asked New Mexico to stop their investigation, I believe back in 2019, of that ranch. So there's just so many questions about how the government failed the victims and how government failed in trying to prosecute Epstein sooner. I mean, this whole thing doesn't make sense. Everyone has conspiracy theories on how Epstein was able to get away with it. Was it because he had powerful friends? Was it because he was an agent? We don't know, because we're not going to find out. But we're going to find out, and I'm glad they're on the ground now in New Mexico searching that property. Congressman, you said in 2019 the government told New Mexico authorities to stand down while investigating the ranch. Do you know what branch of government? They said, yes, it was the Department of Justice, I believe, and it was because they had, I believe, perhaps the Southern District of New York. They had taken over the investigation at that point, so these are the questions that we have. We want to get the answers. That is sus as hell. Now, interestingly enough, okay, Miami Herald investigative journalist Julie K. Brown, credited with originally reopening the Epstein case in 2018, actually weighed in on this during a podcast on Spotify as well. Okay, let me play you a clip from this.
So I just think that it shows another place where our government, the DOJ in the United States, did not follow the money or did not follow some of the leads that we are, quite frankly, seeing now in these files.
What happened in New Mexico? What is sort of the unexplored, uninvestigated sort of questions around New Mexico?
Well, New Mexico was probably the most remote place that he operated. He did have the island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but the waterway to get there is, a short distance from St. Thomas. This place was really in the middle of nowhere with very little access to it. So it's hard to know what he did there. But we do know from the victims that they were taken there and they were sexually abused on this at the New Mexico property, and that there other men were brought there to abuse some of these possibly underage girls, some young women that he trapped into going there. So it continually comes up in interviews, and we can see that in the files. So I think more questions have been raised with people in New Mexico, for example, seeing, Googling or searching these files and seeing that there's New Mexico connections here, and they weren't ever really investigated.
Do you have any understanding as to why not?
No, I never understood why they didn't even search the island until after he was dead. I was surprised because they executed search warrants for his property in New York, as we know, and they didn't seem to do anything with the island until after he died. So
makes you wonder, right? Didn't search the island, didn't search the ranch, shut down the investigation into the ranch. Does make you wonder. It's very, very scary. Now, YouTuber The Conspiracy Files recently released new footage just yesterday, actually, flying another drone directly over the ranch, which showcased just how big and isolated the property is when it comes to being searched by the police.
There's been a few people that have stopped. You notice that?
Oh, this guy just had to pee.
Oh.
He ran out of the truck and went in front of the door.
There's like nothing around here.
Yeah. I don't know why my heart is like racing right now.
I feel you. I could cry. Like, this is like a dream for someone to be out here doing this.
It's bold move, you know. They really flew the drone right over.
Is that where the Atlantis used to be? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Let me see.
Is that there?
It's crazy.
I used to have a pretty big target on my back. I went to prison for accessory to murder. And supposedly we're going to take out the senators and congressmen.
That is crazy.
Veteran.
They got the accessory to murder PDFs, all right? He in the right place. He doing the right thing. That's not who you want turning up to your door when you are controlling a baby farm in the desert of New Mexico. But anyway, it's good to know people are on the case, all right? But Redditors would also collect newly released photos from inside the ranch. There'll be new photos, rare close-up looks inside the Zoro ranch, and these will be circulating just 6 days ago on r/Epstein. Beautiful property, to be honest. The man is not worthy of such a beautiful property, quite frankly. This is a little bit disturbing. Looks a bit like a gallows to me, but hey ho. Something was not right at this property, okay? It is dark. Whatever this guy had going on was suspect as fuck. Okay, no longer on this earth, but he leaves behind all these artifacts, all these little, you know, tidbits of his vast wealth. Still unexplained how he got all of this money, all these ranches, these exclusive properties all over the world. It is bizarre. Okay, it's a beautiful property, absolutely well furnished. How on earth was he doing this? That's what I wonder. All these young women got pictured there, shooting guns there. It's just a mess. So it took me a while to figure out what I was actually looking at, as the images seemed like stock clutter images. Turned out it was pictures from inside the Epstein's Zoro Ranch from an EFTA document that hasn't been posted anywhere else online. People saying, isn't that his girlfriend that he left everything to in picture 1920? Who are the other females? Potential house workers? Yes, sir. Thank you. Some truly effed up individuals. So I guess somebody compiled who they were. Zoro Ranch, who's who, and so we know what. So we know who all these women are. Karina Shuliak, highly implicated. That was his girlfriend. They were in Paris together before Epstein came back and got arrested. Then he got disappeared. She faced legal risk tied to her dental practice in the Virgin Islands, where one does not appear to have existed. Epstein used the same address for a charitable foundation and a company that owned Epstein's jet and a shady international bank. She's currently living in an apartment owned by Epstein's younger brother in Manhattan. Not sure, could be Sarah Kellen, alleged recruiter currently living with husband in penthouse in Soho, New York, according to a court document. Highly involved and implicated in searching for minors, as well as booking massages. Rena O claims to be a survivor of Epstein's abuse and widely spoke about her experiences with him 20 years ago. Sued Virginia Giuffre as Virginia called her out as an abuser and one of the people working in the trafficking operation. Potentially Sarah Linnell or Jennifer Kalin. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the other two turns out to be Virginia Giuffre as well. Right? Virginia Giuffre not in any of these photos. She traveled to Thailand in 2002 and escaped, and she was long gone by the time Karina Shuliak arrived. But very, very, very intriguing. Okay, the devil fork at the end of the Z is blowing me. That was super, super disturbing. Right? They're saying screaming devil heads on the chairs. Like, what is this iconography? Is that's not a screaming devil head, is it? It is spooky as hell. It's spooky as hell. I thought that was a little bit disturbing when I saw it. Yeah, you got the kind of devil pitchfork at the end of the Zoro. It's dark. It's dark. I want to see these devil heads. Where are these devil heads? At the end of the chair. Are these devil horns? Maybe Satan's horns on the chair? Some sort of Satan cuck chair, maybe? Bizarre. Truly bizarre. Chilling. Very, very chilling. Okay. It's dark. All right. If you're into antiques, nothing in these photos is off base. Looks like a lot of the Palm Beach consigners I had. What's with the decor? Is it just like 90s rich American person aesthetic? Same as the island. It looks tasteless and crass. Rich beyond belief and completely hideous decor and furnishings. It's true. The wildest cuck chair I've ever seen in picture 7. It absolutely screams cuck chair if you didn't catch it. It reminds me of Edward's the 7th sex chair. Go on then. Let's have a look. Good God. Good God. Let's not. Let's not. It's crazy. Okay, it is actually crazy. So look, okay, they are finally investigating the Zoro Ranch. I, for one, am actually glad that they're investigating this. I would really hope that they do actually find the bodies. I think that that would be really interesting if they actually found more victims and they actually got to the bottom of what was going on. Even though Epstein's not here to face justice, if there were more bodies, maybe they could implicate more people in murders. And all them little Palm Beach plea bargains that you conspirators signed so that you couldn't be charged, that's going to be out the window if we catch you guys in a couple more murders. And that would be delicious, okay? Would love to see all of these conspirators, Epstein's girlfriends, all the people that enabled him, Ghislaine Maxwell, everybody. I'd love to see somebody else go down for a murder in this case. But hey, we're going to have to wait and see what happens, okay? Let me know what you thought of that video. I will be back with some more updates. I might have another Epstein update. Definitely have some more Iran updates for you guys today. I'm working overtime today. So let me know what you think of the content and the large batch of content. If you're not liking all the content, let me know too. And I will do just like 3 videos a day. Right now, I'm just going to try 10 because I just wanted to try that. I just had this number in my head like, let's do 10 videos. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm going to just run it up today. Going to absolutely burn through the content because there's a lot going on. I feel like I've been behind. There's a few stories that I've not tapped into, and I just want to experiment and see what it's like if I just cover absolutely everything I'm interested in for a whole day, start to finish, non-stop. Can't stop, won't stop, all of that good stuff, bad stuff. I will see you guys next video. Thank you for watching this one, and until next time, I'm out. I've got like 4 more videos coming today at least. All right, stay locked in.